All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's Portals Community Call. We have a really interesting topic this month related to Copilot. Uh, we're going to start in just a moment. A couple of housekeeping items first. Well, we do welcome your questions at any point. I know our presenter and host, Nicholas Hayduk, will be keeping an eye on the questions. I will as well, and ask them at any time, and we'll get answers to you. We're also recording today's event, so look out for the recording coming up after the session ends. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our presenter and our co-host here, Nicholas Hayduk. And Nick, I just want to say congratulations on 10 years of engineered code. I saw your little write-up of that, and it was really interesting, and it's a great milestone.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yes, we are. I guess Monday is the 27th of May. It's 10 years in business. So yes, did that blog post. We've also got some videos that we were lucky enough to interview a few Power Pages friends. So keep an eye out on social media for those. We've got Nick Dolman, Julie Yak, Franco Muzo, a lot of people who have joined us here on the call as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Ulrike and I'm going to blank on who and then Ulrike kind of turned around and interviewed me. So yeah, it was great. So yeah, thanks for that, Jason. Today we've got a session on Copilot. I'm not sure if Jason, have you ever heard of this Copilot thing before? Is there any
No,
no?
I'm trying to catch up on it.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I mean, Copilot with Power Pages is still somewhat kind of in its infancy. So I've been kind of focusing on this and some of the other content that we're doing with our tips and that sort of stuff. So this is all relative. The whole Copilot world is somewhat new to me. Yeah, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show what's possible without, if you just kind of rely on Copilot. I'm not going to promise that there might be a few extra clicks we have to do, but for the most part, I'm going to try and do everything I can to see what we can build with Copilot today. So why don't we get started? So a quick intro, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Nicholas Hayduk, President and Software Engineer with Engineered Code Consulting, Inc., based here in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Engineered Code is a Microsoft partner that does Power Pages consulting. We've also got EC Learn, which is our learning management system for the Power Platform. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I've been working with Power Pages for the last, more than 10 years, 13, 14 years now. My career began at ADX Studio, which was the company that originally built Power Pages and was acquired by Microsoft in 2015. If you're not already connected with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so. You can also follow us on Twitter, where we post all of our different social content, which includes our blogs, includes our YouTube channel, where we have a weekly, roughly 2-minute tip on things Power Pages related. We've got a whole series of Copilot stuff that we'll be talking about. We've also got the podcast, which I co-host with George Dubinsky, which we've had a new release here in the last few days. So you can look up for that. So lots of ways to stay up to date on Power Pages if you're interested. So again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or to you follow us on any of those other social media channels. As always, I just want to extend my appreciation out to Jason and the entire team at MS Dynamics World for their support of these calls. I think we're getting close to 50, or we're at 49, something like that. We're getting close to the half-century mark. So I'm not sure if that was, even in the plans when we started these back in, I think it was kind of the middle of COVID almost, it seemed. Yeah, we're getting close to 50, and so want to thank Jason for his support of this endeavor over the last 4 or 5 years now. So it's been a lot of fun. So agenda, as always, we got some news. We got lots of news, actually lots of stuff. We got MS Build going on, and so there's always lots of fun new announcements there. Then, as I mentioned, we'll talk about the how building a Power Pages site using only Copilot, or using only Copilot as much as I can. Then we'll talk about the next community call, and there's typically some time for some Q&A. So let's look at the news. So typically this is all generally around the Power Pages blog, which you can find at powerpages.microsoft.com. So a very, very heavy month worth of news. I'll just start here from the top. So Power Pages Site Copilot. So, again, we'll be talking lots about Copilot today. I kind of want to draw the line here between today we're mostly going to be looking at the Maker Copilot. So how does Copilot help us build Power Pages site? But there's also a Copilot for the users of the Power Pages site. So that's what they call the Site Copilot. So there's an integration with Omnichannel. So essentially, you could have Copilot be your chatbot that you build out. So it can answer a bunch of questions, but at some point it might kind of reach the limits of what Copilot's able to answer, and you want to hand that off to a live agent. And you can do that with the Dynamics customer service Omnichannel products. So you can integrate your Power Pages Site Copilot with Omnichannel in Dynamics to kind of do that handoff to the live agent. The Maker Copilot that we're talking about today is now GA. So now there's some features in there that are still not GA, but just in general, up until a few weeks ago, all kind of the Copilot stuff in the Maker experience in Power Pages was still in preview. So a bunch of that is GA. Basically, I think if you look at the notes, basically everywhere but Canada and some government stuff. So a lot of it is available in Canada, as you'll see, because my environments are in Canada. Yeah, a lot of it has gone GA. The Power Pages now have recommendations in the Power Advisor. So if you're not familiar, if you're in the Power Platform Admin Center, one of the elements in the navigation says Advisor. You can click on that and it'll provide you different recommendations. Similar to kind of the site checker that we have in Power Pages. There's just a bunch of rules that kind of can go in there and it'll provide you some recommendations. So Power Pages has some of those rules created now, so that if you go into the advisor, you'll see things related to Power Pages. And as compared to the the site checker that kind of runs on one environment, the nice thing about the recommendations in the Power Advisor is that it can be across multiple multiple environments and multiple sites. So yeah, that exists now. We've also got Copresence in VS Code for web. So we've had Copresence within the Design Studio here for a little while, but now we've got the Copresence in VS Code for web. So as you're working in VS Code for web, working on your Power Pages site, you can see who else is in there and what files they're working on. The other thing that we've got new is a new Security Workspace. So why don't I'm going to just share my screen and maybe show some of this. PCC 2405. Give me 1 second here. Got to bring up my other screen. Okay, next. Okay, so that is in here. Okay, so we're in a site here. Actually, this is probably going to fail because I just deleted that environment. Let me get back to the right environment here. Let's go into this one. So if I open up a site here and I click edit, we've got the site here. So you'll see there's a new security section now. And so this is comprised of some of the things that used to be in the setup tab. I noticed that this thing's struggling a little bit today as I was prepping. Yes, I know I'm editing the live site. There we go. So you'll see there's some things in here that existed previously. So the ability to manage your identity providers, site visibility, that already existed, table permissions. So some of this stuff was just moved. If you go over to the setup tab, you'll see that it's a little shorter these days. So we've got this new workspace. It does include some new features. So the run a scan. So this is a new feature that they've announced with the ability to run a scan for vulnerabilities on your site. So you can include authenticated pages in your scan. Run that scan. It's going to give you some recommendations. So that's a cool new tool. The ability to manage web roles, page permissions. These are things that you could always do within the management app, but now we've got them in the Design Studio, as well as manage the web application firewall. Configuring custom rules, which you can do some of that in the admin center, but you can kind of download logs. So new functionality here, as well as the fact that this web application firewall is GA as well. So that's new as well. While I'm in here, I'll show you what I mean by the advisory. So the advisor is in here. You can see in this particular environment, I don't know if I have any Power Pages recommendations, but this is where you can see that advisory stuff. So just going back here to my list, so we've talked about the new Security Workspace, the card gallery. So the card gallery is a new control within Power Pages. So we've had lists and forms for a long time. Think of card gallery as an alternative to the lists. So rather than displaying in kind of a table or tabular format, you can use the card gallery. So it's essentially a tiled view of that and of your data. So you pick your table, you pick your view, and then you can configure for the card. Here's where you get the image from. Here's where you get the title from. Here's where you get the description from. You pick all that, kind of a WYSIWYG interface, without writing any code, and it will display your data in a card. So that's new, as well as Power FX. So this was announced as part of there was a big blog post released here in the last couple of days that talks about, it has a bunch of stuff that's been out for a few weeks or for a few months, but also a bunch of new nuggets in there. So if you were to read one blog post, I would recommend reading that kind of latest blog post that kind of summarizes everything that's new over the last little while, and there's some new stuff. So like I said, in there was the Power FX nugget, the new Security Workspace. So lots of things going on. So almost too much to kind of cover in just today, but recommend you get into checking out that blog post, because there's lots going on in the Power Pages space. Okay, so I see you have a few questions. Okay, so the B2C stuff I'll answer at the end. As Klaus says, he's interested in see if Copilot can help with CSS page styling. So we'll talk about that. And then, can we use Azure Managed SSL certificate yet? Not as far as I know. As far as I know, you still have to just upload an SSL certificate as a PFX. So no changes there that I've heard of or that I'm aware of coming there. Perfect. Okay. All right. So I've got my environment here, my PCC 2024-04 environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to head over to make.powerpages.microsoft.com, and we'll see if we can build ourselves a site using only Copilot. So I'm going to switch over to that environment right here, and you'll see that even just to create the site itself, we can use Copilot. So rather than picking a template or starting from blank, we can use Copilot. So in this case, because as I've said many times, I love golf, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say create a site that will allow someone to submit a maintenance request for a golf course. See what it tells us. So off it goes. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to tell me we want to give you, and here's the name of the site, and I'll be able to change that if I'd like. So we've got golf course maintenance as our name, and we've got a URL, which as far as I'm concerned, that's close enough for me. So let's click next. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to present me a home page. So if I may not, if I have some feedback for Copilot here where I can say, you know, maybe I do or don't want certain things on here, I can do that. So I can actually edit my description and have Copilot try again. But I think for what we're doing right now, I think this is probably good enough. So I'm going to click next. And what it's then going to do is it's going to present me with a number of other pages that that I can choose from to add to my site. So maybe I want an About Us page. Maybe I want a Contact Us page. Maybe I want an FAQ. Maybe I want a gallery. You'll see here, there's a maintenance request page like I asked for. Maybe there's a list of services. So I'm going to pick all these. I can open these up. I can look at them. I can't change these yet. I basically can, but if I say I was expecting something, I don't see it, I can always go back and have it kind of try again. Every time you click the, ask Copilot to do something, you're often going to get a slightly different result. You're not going to get the same thing over and over and over again. But I think as a first attempt, this was pretty good. So now I'm going to click done. So off it's going to go, and it's going to create my Copilot's going to create. It's going to create my site for me. It's going to create all those pages that I've selected, and it's going to give me all that data. So given it's going to have certain content that I've asked for, all of that stuff's going to be created automatically. Now the setting up of the actual site shouldn't take too long. I remember back in the day that usually took 10, 15 minutes. Not something we could really do in a live demo, but here we are. This is the future. So for the most part, that's going to load pretty quickly, and within a minute, we've got our site set up. So it has all the pages that we've discussed: the gallery, the services, the maintenance request, the FAQ, the contact us, the about us. So we've got our site, but you know what? If you haven't noticed, engineered code, our colors are green, golf is green. Maybe I want to change the way that my site looks a little bit. So I'm going to click Page Design. Now, here we've got this Copilot tab. So if it's not open automatically when you visit there, you can click the little Copilot thing, and that will open up this Copilot. I think they call it a sidecar, side pane, whatever you want to call it. A lot of different options here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click the Page Design. And one of the options in here is to create a color theme. So I can say create a color theme that is golf related. We'll see what that gives us. Maybe hopefully something green, perhaps. There we go. So there's a bunch of theme colors for a theme. Now you'll notice that when I click these, essentially these kind of sample prompts, it doesn't actually do anything other than it starts filling in this prompt down here. So when Microsoft, or when they give you these buttons, they're really more like suggestions. I can click on one, and it'll basically fill in the text here, but I still have the option to edit it and keep going. So do you know what? I think that did a pretty good job. That's going to be my main brand color. My secondary color is going to be yellow, which is traditionally the color of a flag on the golf course. So let's see what that looks like. So there's my theme. Now it's a little bit more green. We've got that other color. Now, again, we're sticking with Copilot here today. But if I wanted to, and I wanted a little bit more kind of granular control here, because again, here, I can tell it to try again. So I can get kind of different options. And I can kind of give it some more specific instructions if I want to. But if I want to get more than just the color theme, I can go into my styling workspace. Now that I've selected this, you can see that I've got this custom AI theme, and I can customize it even further. So I can change these colors. I got my more colors. I can change fonts, all that sort of stuff. So right now, Copilot is able to generate a color theme. But there is more you can do here in the styling workspace. But again, so using Copilot, I've been able to generate a site with a bunch of content, and I've been able to get it to style my content. Now, let's look at some text. So it says, welcome to Golf Course Maintenance. We are dedicated to providing top-notch maintenance services for golf courses. With our experience and expertise, we ensure that golfers have the best playing experience on the course. Well, that's pretty cool. But let's just say I want to rewrite this. It's a little short for me. I want to make it longer. So I can use Copilot to help write the text of my web page. So you can see here I said make it longer. It's actually going to give me a few different options. And I can either say, yeah, I like one of these, or I can say, do you know what? I want this to make this just a little bit friendlier. Okay, I can say, I've already made it a little bit longer. Or I can say, do you know what? Try that again. All right, so there we go. I see Adrian's talking about yellows, the bunkers at his course. Yeah, my course it's a little bit more white, but I spend too much time, and bunkers are my killer. I just have never figured out quite how to hit it out of the sand properly. Okay, so we've got this text here, so I can click replace text. So we can use Copilot to generate individual little bits of text on the page. I can also go back over here, and we can look at my different things. So if I go page designs, I can say, you know what, this created some different sections for me. I want to create even more sections. So I say create a section that describes different maintenance equipment. I just want to warn you all, I haven't gone through this live, so I don't know what's going to happen here. This is literally the first time I'm trying that specific prompt, so we'll see how that works. It could do well. Sometimes it does less well. Look at that. So I would give this a, I don't know, C+, B- maybe. So like, yes, a rake could be used. I'm not sure if there's a, if F1 cars have much to do with golf, but again, you can see that not only can it generate individual text, it can generate the sections on a page, and it's actually using images. So it's going to add those images as web files to our page. The other thing to note is that you'll see here, so it's kind of generated this stuff, but until you say keep it, that content doesn't exist on your site. So you don't have to worry about if you're using Copilot and you say try again, try again. It's not adding a whole bunch of kind of cruft to your site. It's not until you say keep it that it actually kind of does the work. So in this case, I'm going to keep it. Now the other thing is that you can't really edit it until you keep it. So you either have to kind of keep it or discard it. So I'm going to say continue review. I'm going to keep this. Once I keep it, now I can go in here and edit. Now it's a part of my site. Now I can kind of edit it as I want. So there's the new section. So that's great. But what if what if when I was kind of going through my list of pages it provided me at the beginning, what if there was a page in there that I really wanted, but it didn't give me? I can actually ask Copilot to generate an entire page for me. So if I go to page design again, I can say, create a page. So I can say, create a page that talks about grass. Enter. What it's going to do, it's going to generate an entire page with a bunch of sections, usually some different layouts, different sections, 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, that sort of stuff. So we'll see what it comes back with here. Yeah, usually some pictures on it. Now, so there we go. So welcome to green grass, all your things for grass, all of this stuff generated by Copilot. So is this going to be the final version that you use on your site? Probably not. As with anything Copilot related, you always want to double check, you want to verify, you want to read it. Where this is going to be, especially for someone like me, like I'm not the one that has to write a whole bunch of content, but when we're talking about doing things like demos, like this is going to take your demo before where you put in a bunch of like lorem ipsum text. It'll just make it that much better, right? It's putting in images, it's putting in some somewhat realistic text. If someone's not reading every single word, it's going to kind of pass the smell test of, hey, this looks kind of real. So yeah, you can use it to generate an entire page. And then once you've said, again, I can't change this yet, but once I say keep it, now I can say, you know what, this text was pretty good, but let's use Copilot. Let's use Copilot to change the tone on this one. This one I want to be extra professional. So that's going to generate the new text. Again, I can make it shorter, I can make it longer. I can say, but in this case, I'll just say there's my new text. So again, we're using Copilot to create our site, change our color theme, generate all of our content for us, adjust that content, create sections, all that sort of fun stuff. Okay, so we got a question here from Adrian. Which Copilot is this using? The one we signed up for with Microsoft that understands my internal documents and context, or only one that's trained on public content? So at this point, it is not, I don't believe there's any training here on any internal content or context. This is just external. I don't believe, like, there's no option to augment this. It is essentially using either stuff that's been trained. So when we start talking about building forms or some of the other functionality, it's using stuff that's that Microsoft has trained to do some of these things, but I don't believe it's using any internal stuff. And we'll talk about here in a second about using Copilot to ask it questions where I do have to enable Bing search. But I believe it's either public information or certain things that Microsoft has trained it on specifically for, I think the color theme was some specific training. Even when it comes to the color theme, what I think would be great is if I could go in here and say, create a color theme based on engineeredcode.com. Because that's, I mean, for a lot of sites, for a lot of portals that you're building, there's an existing site that does it. You can see here, that's not engineeredcode.com. In fact, when I tried this last time, it said I couldn't even do that. So I'd be curious where it's getting that from. Oh, I think I know what I did last time. It was create a color theme based on https://www.engineeredcode.com. So I think it would be awesome if it could actually go to that website and pull the colors. Again, those are not, I don't have a blue like that. So I'm not sure where it's grabbing these from, but it's, not my website, that's for sure. Klaus is asking, how close to what you consider best practice is the backend data layout when you do this? So Klaus, if I'm understanding correctly, are you saying the actual layout of the sections? That's what I'm going to assume you're asking. So let's take a look at what kind of markup this generates. Oh, so Adrian's asking, so if I was building a customer support site, I couldn't access my internal documents to generate content. So there's some other capabilities within Copilot that can do that. So when we look at, let me just cancel this. So one of the things you can do in here, this is relatively recently released. I don't know if it's in any of the prompts here, but there's new functionality that says, given a document, generate an FAQ page. So there are some features that you can provide at the data, so that FAQ site is or FAQ page. Is it in the FAQ page? Oh yeah, create a page for frequently asked questions. And what you can do is you can actually give it a document. Honestly, I couldn't get it to work for myself when I tried this last week, but the documentation, I couldn't figure out how to give it the document properly. But there is the option to say, hey, here's my content, and then go do that. Now, when it comes to the actual Power Pages, so what we're talking about right now is the Maker Copilot. So it helps me build the site. When we talk about the actual Copilot for the site itself, that can look at your site and actually answer questions for users based on that content. But the actual maker of here to generate the content, I don't think we'll use. You can't kind of provide it outside of that, this functionality to create a frequently asked questions page where you can provide it a document to do that. Okay, so we're going to look at the content here. Haven't been in here yet. Oh, I guess this is a new site. Prove that. This will open up my page. So the question was, I think, Klaus, your question was, is this producing decent markup? And the answer is, I think so. The markup in here is based on kind of how you can build columns. So if we're in this thing, when it's creating these sections, it's creating like these kind of real sections. When I add a section here, I can do the different column layouts. So the markup in here is pretty clean. Like, yeah, there's some like word break and like there's some inline styles in here, but it's, it's not, it's fine. It's essentially no different than if you're using this editor. Do I use this editor to do my content? No, I don't. Like I'm more, I know HTML. I like to write my own HTML to make sure it's exactly what I'm expecting. But if you have users that are using these kind of WYSIWYG tools, you know, it does a decent job to do that. And Copilot, I think, is just kind of leveraging the same. You know, if you say if it's going to generate 2 columns, it's going to kind of generate the same markup as this 2-column layout here. So that, I believe, has been trained specifically. How do I create a 2-column layout in Power Pages versus just like generically like, oh, I'm going to create a table or something goofy like that. Let's see here if I'm missing any questions. I think we've got that covered so far. So we've got the content created. So one thing I did want to go to is the maintenance request page, because this is something that actually looks like something's there, but I wanted to kind of raise the fact that there isn't actually anything here. So in this case, we've got the ability, I want to submit a maintenance request. So I've got this form, great. So why don't we try this out? Let's go to preview this page, and I want to show you what happens when we try and submit this maintenance request. Because this is a new site, got to approve that. Jim's asking, can Copilot make tables in Dataverse and integrate them into Power Pages site with views, forms, permissions, etc.? A little bit, yes. So that's going to be our next step. So what I'm about to show you here is the fact that even though Copilot, when it created a site, said, oh, you wanted a form, I'll give you a form. A@b.com, mention, submit. This actually does absolutely nothing. If I look at the design of this site, so if I open this up in VS Code, we will see that it is literally just kind of a dumb HTML inputs. So close this. And if we look at the markup that it generates, it is simply just like an HTML form that has some text and submit. And the actual form, it posts back to, where are we here? Maintenance request, submit a form. There's my form. You'll see that it doesn't even, you know, it's not set up to post back anywhere special. So this is just essentially a dumb HTML form. So even though when creating a site, Power Pages may say, look, here's a form. You wanted to submit a maintenance request. This isn't a real form that we can use. So, but there are ways to create forms. There's actually kind of two different ways right now. And one of the things I'm trying to highlight here is the fact that we've got the Copilot pane, which allows us to do some things. And then there's other places where Copilot's integrated as well. So one of the other places we looked at was generating text. So if I want to say add a form for actually submitting a maintenance request, what I would do is I can say add a section. I'm going to add that in here. And when I go to add a form, I have an option in here to actually create a form using Copilot. So this is another, basically anywhere you see that fancy Copilot icon. So here I can say create form to allow someone to submit a maintenance request for a golf course. Now I could also just select existing ones. There's or in my site I don't have any existing ones, but if one already existed, I could do that. But this is how I use Copilot to actually generate a form for me. So the short answer to your question is you can use Copilot to generate forms, nothing to generate lists yet. So here it's actually generating this form for me. Now I can now edit this if I want to. I can say, what do I do? What I don't like about this? I can say move the time request field. It's gonna go back and it's gonna change it. So I can, after my initial prompt, I can actually give it further instructions here. You can see here, again, I haven't given it any information other than golf. It's asking me which hole should I do it on. Like, that's cool. I didn't give it that. It just came up with that itself. So I can continue to ask it to add things, remove things. I can continue to essentially have this conversation with Copilot for it to edit this. Now it's important to note, so I'm going to click OK here. So what this is doing is it's actually going out and it's creating the table for me. So one of the things with when it's creating a Power Pages form is that it will create a new table every time. But there's separate functionality for multi-step forms, which just kind of came out relatively recently, that works a little bit different. So once this is created, we'll see we've got this. If I go into my data tab, we will see that there's this Copilot maintenance request. So the tables that it creates will start with Copilot. So Copilot maintenance request, which has, you'll see it's just created kind of the default views that are out of the box. And the form that we've got here, the Copilot maintenance request form, that's the form that we customized. So Copilot's created the table for us, it's created the form for us, and it's added it to the page for us. So now if I were to preview this page, I would want to delete this. Oh, did I not save that? Oh yeah. So it says set up the permissions on the form so it can be seen. So to answer the other part of your question, Jim, is that I don't believe it does anything with permissions yet. So you do still have to set up the permissions. And so in this case, I would say create for anonymous, and I'll do authenticated, save. And now if I preview this, I think I'll see that. Still no. Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure why this form, I don't know if it's like a styling thing or where that form is. It should appear slightly below there. Edit fields, edit form, delete. Just curious if it's, inspect that. It's hidden in the, I'm doing something stupid, but you can trust me the fact that this is a real form that should work if it was. Let me just remove that from there, and then I'm just going to remove this section. Delete, and then I'm gonna add one up here just to see if we can get that to show up. So there's the form I already created with Copilot. I thought I did grant the create permission, but let me just double check. Permissions. Global, Copilot, create, anonymous users, authenticated users. I don't know. So something's, but essentially like this has created this form. Oh, do you know what no, I killed the cache. Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm doing something silly, but it has created this form. It's created the table. I wouldn't expect it to be a caching thing, but something is goofy going on with the form, but it's created this form for us. So the other option we have is, again, so that's helpful if you want to create a new table. I think in a lot of cases when you're dealing with Power Pages, your data might already exist. So using Copilot to generate a new table for you every time may not be what you want to do, but I'll show you this other functionality that they've got in there, which is the data forms. So you can go in here, and so this is kind of one of those places where it can be a little bit of a odd user experience. So when I go to create my form, that's where I've got this Copilot menu show up. But if I were to create a multi-step form, it just takes me to kind of the traditional way to create a new multi-step form. However, if I try and create a form from the Copilot side panel, this is actually going to create a form for a golf course maintenance request. This is going to create me a multi-step form. And what's cool about this experience is it will prompt me, it'll say, hey, I think I might see a table we want to reuse, or I can tell it to create a new one. So let's see if it can find, yeah, so you can see, hey, do you want to use the Copilot maintenance request table, or do you want to create a form with a new table? Now, if I say form with a new table, it's basically going to spit something out here, and we don't necessarily have the same kind of conversational back and forth thing that we did with the form one. So it's like, here it is. Do we want to, so I can preview it, I can flip between the steps. You'll see it is a multi-step form. Do I want to keep it or do I want to remove it? So there's some nice things about the form one where you can kind of have that back and forth thing and tweak it before it's actually created to get exactly what you want. On this one, you're creating this multi-step form that will go through all those different steps. So those are the two different ways to create forms right now, and using Copilot to get those to submit. So you can see here we've got first name, last name, email address. It's got the location, issue, urgency, and then any additional comments as part of this multi-step form. So that's kind of how, again, I think the big gap here is you could almost build an entire kind of functioning application website if we had lists with Copilot. That's the one thing that's kind of missing right now. That's the gap is we've got nothing with Copilot yet to generate the lists. But in terms of generating forms, you can certainly get Copilot to help you out with that as well. Just some other things to quickly show you about Copilot. So I'm just going to say, don't create that for me. I can ask Copilot to ask a question. So it's like, how do page permissions work? So I can ask Copilot. And what's actually going to do is, you'll see there's this Bing search is disabled. So when I'm asking it a question, not create something, but just kind of a more general question. So I'm not asking it to perform a task. I'm asking it just to answer a question. That's where I have to enable the Bing search. So to Adrian's question from earlier, up until this point, I haven't had to enable Bing search. So I'm assuming that's using models that Microsoft has trained specifically. But now at this point, Microsoft is probably just kind of going out and leveraging the Bing search. So I'll say yes until I close this chat. I can also enable it permanently by using that. So that's going to go out and it's going to get some question, going to try and answer the question for me, give me a bunch of answers here, show me the references for page permissions. Now this is, again, you have to ask questions that are related to Power Pages. If you start asking things that are outside the realm, which golf course is the best? I think it's going to tell you, sorry, I can't do that, but maybe it'll give me an answer today. Yeah. So if it can't find an answer, it's going to direct you to ask your question on the community. So if anyone wants to ask on the community which is the best golf course, please feel free to do so. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else I've missed in terms of the Copilot stuff. So again, we can use it to create sites. You can use it to create entire web pages, section on the web page, text in that web page. You can use it to create forms, multi-step forms, themes. Here, let me just get back into here, because if you look at kind of all of its different sample prompts, so we've got page design, which we went through. We've got the data forms, which we talked about, and then the ask is just kind of general questions. So that's kind of what we can do with Copilot in terms of the actual maker experience. There's a lot more. There's within the VS Code integration, which, let me just see, this wasn't available to me earlier because I think we just have some Canada stuff going on. Because a lot of this stuff isn't available to us in Copilot or in Canada. Yeah, I don't have the Copilot extension in there. Back over here, edit code. So Adrian's, okay, yeah, Klaus, can I ask why the form isn't showing? Yeah, my guess is I'm probably not going to have too much luck answering that. So yeah, Copilot, for some reason, it's not available for me. I'm guessing it's because I could be in Canada. But if you do have it enabled, you can ask Copilot to write you JavaScript to do validation on your forms. You can also use the explain feature, so you can essentially highlight JavaScript and say what's this thing doing. In terms of, Adrian's asking, where does it create the tables, in which solution? So that's a good question. I believe, like when we go into data, you control which solution we're working in here. So I think if you, it's going to create them in whichever solution you set as your solution in Power in Power Pages. So you can control which solution when you create them this way, and I think Copilot puts them in there. But yeah, so there's Copilot in the on the actual site we talked about. So for the actual users of your Power Pages site, we've got Copilot, and then as developers, we've got Copilot in VS Code for Web, Visual Studio Code. You can ask it to generate code for you. You can ask it to explain code to you. So lots of cool things going on with Copilot right now. So I'll quickly jump back to my slides here. So our next call will be June 20th. Same time, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. As always, thank you to Jason and MS Dynamics World, especially with our technical challenges today. I'm assuming while I was away, Jason, you sang a song that I'll listen to later on the recording.
We all shared.
Yeah. So I think if I go back to my questions, because if you do have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I know Klaus, who has left, but in case he's watches the recording, or maybe that's just it says he's left because I disconnected. I think he still might be here. So he's asking, they're working on an Azure B2C login single sign-on solution with a portal running next to a Sitecore site. But if you log out of the Sitecore site using B2C, the portal stays logged in and vice versa. What's the trick there? I don't know if there's a trick there. So when we talk about single sign-on and kind of having the authentication or the logout being synchronized, what you can do is you can tell your identity provider, hey, when I sign out of Power Pages, sign out of my identity provider. But if you have two sites, so if you have Sitecore and you have your Power Pages site, and they're both relying on B2C, they kind of all have their own length of time that those login sessions will be synchronized or be configured for. So if you log out of, say, the Sitecore site, you can probably configure Sitecore to then log you out of B2C. I know for sure you can have, if you're logged into Power Pages, you can tell, hey, if the user clicks the logout button in Power Pages, log them out of B2C. You can kind of federate the logout, but that's still not going to then send it back to Sitecore to say, hey, your session's no longer invalid. So I'm not aware of a way to essentially, because the way it works is that if you click the logout link in Power Pages, you can have it then immediately redirect to B2C to have you sign out there, but that's not going to impact your authenticated session in Sitecore. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not familiar. I haven't seen that done before, but it would take some sort of request over to Sitecore to invalidate your session. So I'm not aware of a way to synchronize that. Usually when we're talking about a single sign out, what we're saying is when we log out of Power Pages, we also want to sign out of the identity provider, which you can do, but I don't know how you would then sign out of other services that depend on that identity provider. And then Klaus was asking about the CSS styling. So we talked a little bit about the theming. I know that really doesn't answer the question of CSS styling. I haven't got to play around with the Copilot with the code generation, but I'm wondering if Copilot might help you with the CSS styling on that side. I'm expecting that Microsoft is going to be improving the styling capabilities of Power Pages. To make it more than just picking some colors, maybe doing the fonts and doing some more things. So I'm hoping to see some enhancements there, but nothing that I'm aware of. Let's see here. Yes, so Adrian's saying that hopefully with Copilot that will give me some more time to improve my golf game. I certainly hope that that's true. I could certainly use the help, or maybe a Copilot to give me some lessons. So that might also help as well. So, okay. We've got about 5 minutes here. I don't see any other questions. So Jason, I think we could probably wrap it up here for today. And apologies once again for the technical difficulties. I guess the first time in almost 50 calls, I think that's the first time we've run into something like that. So knock on wood, hopefully it'll be another 50 till we do it again.
Yeah, and it's a great audience. We're all here for each other to ride out the storm until you return. So I think it all worked out. Great job as always, Nick. Thanks to everyone in the audience for all the great questions as always. Best audience I think of the month, most months for interaction and asking great questions. We did record. We'll be sending you that soon. Thanks, Nick. And I think we can end it there.
All right. Thanks, everyone.